Minimal pairs, two words which are separated by one sound. And if we pronounce one of those sounds incorrectly, then it might sound like the wrong word. For example, ship and sheep. If you're a non-native speaker, it's quite likely you have a bit of difficulty pronouncing the short vowel I, and it often sounds more like I because of your native language. Now, if that's the case, then when you say ship, it could sound a bit like sheep. So we have to make sure that you're getting the difference between these words and these sounds. It's a great way to improve your pronunciation, and today we're going to go through some of the most common mistakes my students make with some of the most common minimal pairs. We'll put them into some sentences, and I also have some funny stories to share with you from my students. Hi, by the way, it's me, Elliot from ETJ English, or as many of you have been calling me in the comments, Vecna from Stranger Things. Anyway, let me start with a story. A few years ago, one of my Italian students was staying with a host family in the UK, so a British family, when he was visiting. One morning he decided to be really helpful and he changed the sheets on his bed because they were dirty. After he changed the dirty sheets and he left them in a pile on the bed, he came downstairs with a big smile on his face and spoke to the lady who owns the house, and he said, "Good morning, I left a dirty sheet on the bed." So instead of saying sheet, it came out like shit. Now, I'm pretty sure she knew straight away that he didn't defecate on the bed. That would be quite disgusting. But, of course, these things can be a bit embarrassing if we make these mistakes with our pronunciation. Another student, Brazilian, he told me to come to Brazil and visit. And he said, "Elliot, you must visit Brazil one day. We have so many beautiful beaches here." Beaches, right? E. We have to make sure that sound is long enough so it doesn't sound like bitches. I also had an Italian student who used to drop a lot of H's, and I remember he said the word hassle once, and I thought he called me an asshole. That's a different story. Anyway, let's stop the stories and let's talk about minimal pairs. We'll start with a and a. This is a really common mistake that students make, and they don't realize they're making it until they receive an evaluation from me. And it's just this difference between a and a. And the problem is very often people pronounce the sound like in but, like a, like in bat. So we need to make sure that there's a clean difference between these two sounds. Firstly, let's look at the two sounds. Let's start with the open sound. Tongue down, mouth open, drop your jaw, a, a, a. Hat, hat, ha, ha, hat. Now let's look at the other sound. We're more central in the mouth. We will drop the jaw slightly so the mouth is a little bit open. Tongue should stay kind of in the middle of the mouth, and we don't want to smile or round our lips. So it's just hut, hut, ha. Let's compare. A, hat, hut, hat, hut. Watch the difference in my mouth shape. A, hat, hut, hat, hut. She wore a hat and stayed in the hut. She wore a hat and stayed in the hut. Bat, bat, bat. But, ba, ba. Keep the tongue down for the a sound. Keep the mouth more neutral for the bat, but. Bat, but. He swung the bat, but missed the ball. He swung the bat, but missed the ball. Lack, lack. Luck, luck. La, lack, luck. His failure wasn't due to lack of effort, but bad luck. His failure wasn't due to lack of effort, but bad luck. Now a harder one because we have a consonant cluster before. Fl, fla, fla, flash, flash, flush, flush, flash, flush. The camera flash made him flush with embarrassment. The camera flash made him flush with embarrassment. Now, we've already done the ah sound, but did you know that also this ah sound can often be mispronounced as eh, especially if people are more influenced by American accents, maybe they want to sound more British. We have to make sure that this ah sound is working. So remember, the most important thing is to drop your chin down and push your tongue forwards and down when you do this ah sound. Ah. Now let's compare it with ah, 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 ah. Ah, eh. My jaw is less open for the eh sound. And my tongue is still forward, but it's not as low in the mouth. My jaw is just more relaxed. Look at my mouth. Ah, eh. Ah, eh. They're quite similar, right? It's all in the jaw and what's happening inside of the mouth, keeping the tongue a little bit more relaxed for the eh sound, pushing the cheeks back just slightly, like in my name, Elliot. This one's really common and I hear a lot of mistakes with this, so let's go through some frequently mispronounced words. Man. Men. Man, men. Man, men. Eh. One man stood while the other men sat. One man stood while the other men sat. Bad. Ah, bad. Bad. Bed. Bed. Bad bed. She fell out of bed because of her bad dream. She fell out of bed because of her bad dream. Pan. Pen. Pan, pen. He grabbed a pan and a pen to write the recipe. He grabbed a pan and a pen to write the recipe. Sad. Sad. Said. 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 Sad. Said. He looked sad when she said goodbye. He looked sad when she said goodbye. La. Land. Lend. Land, lend. They'll lend you money to buy the land. They'll lend you money to buy the land. And finally, I versus E. The biggest showdown, the most difficult two sounds to get the difference between for so many non-native accents. Honestly, it's because the difference between these two sounds, it's hard, right? So if we just take a look at the easy one, which most people can pronounce, it's the long vowel, E. Tongue is lifting up high. You might feel the sides of your tongue touch your molars, which are the teeth that you chew with, at the top of your mouth. E. And we're doing a nice smile. We're pushing the cheeks back. Now, what I want you to do for the other sound is just to relax a bit more. So start with E, and now feel everything melt away in your face. Your face begins to relax. You pronounce it in a lazier way. E. Your tongue should just be slightly lifted, just behind the sharp edge of your top teeth. The sound is short, and we're just a little bit more relaxed than we are for the E sound. E. The other common problem is the one which my student had, which we've fixed now, thankfully, was making the E sound too short. And this is a really common problem in non-native accents, pronouncing long vowels too short. So work becomes work, or course becomes kos. And in this case, seat could sound like seat, where it's too short. You might be pronouncing it correctly, but the length is important. And what you really need is someone to notice what problems you actually have. If you need an accent evaluation, or if you'd like to work with me on your pronunciation, I have a pronunciation course, or private lessons where we can work through your problems together and find out what really is causing the problems. It could even be different minimal pairs, right? It might not be these three that we've talked about today. Sit, seat. Sit, seat. Sit, seat. Please sit down. That seat is taken. Please sit down. That seat is taken. Fit. 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 Feet. Fit feet. Fit feet. The shoes don't fit my feet properly. The shoes don't fit my feet properly. Chip. 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 Cheap. 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 The chips were surprisingly cheap. The chips were surprisingly cheap. Hit. Hit. Heat. Hit. Heat. Hit. Heat. He hit the button to turn up the heat. He hit the button to turn up the heat. Led. Lead. 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 Put the lid on the pot and lead the way. Put the lid on the pot and lead the way. So that's it. Those are just a few minimal pairs. We do have many more. And again, it depends on your accent. It depends on your problems. And we need to identify those. So if you would like to work with me and find out what's going on in your accent and what needs to be fixed and to start working on them, go to my website, etjenglish.com, where you'll find my course, which has full-time WhatsApp voice messaging, or private lessons if you would like to work with me one-to-one. So thank you very much. Please let me know if there are any minimal pairs that you struggle with, and maybe I'll make a video about them in the future. See you next time. Cheers, guys. Bye.